That's all you said.
Big kids.
Oh, that's a biggie. Of course they do. Oh, they're big. Yeah. Does it do?
So is that who's probably root for an NFL?
Yeah.
Or would they be?
I have a towel and my easy tears. I just look at them and grab her face.
Yeah. I had a friend who had a boxer monastic,
When I met
and
one,
their heads look alike except for
had a t-shirt, a white t-shirt,
Yeah, that's
and
it.
that's
on it, and circles and lines.
and tall.
And
he used
we
to put
lived in
his
Seattle,
paws up on
and
my
he was
shoulder.
just
You know, he'd go ridiculous.
That's exactly what it does to you.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because it was a boxer, it was a suited shirt.
They're kind of rattling now.
Oh, good.
I'd love to have another dog or cat, but you know, when I'm gone all the time, it's a lot.
What made you guys coffee? So
That's the
now
only
you want now.
of the what? Oh,
What else?
online or she?
We don't really know this in our
That's okay. They were online. Dr. Pierce is honest with you, but so don't ask me. What? Me? Okay, well, I'll keep you. I'll pinch you actually. You know who the big people write in the no, you just go reach over. I can say it.
I gotta,
Yeah.
pinch my
We can pinch my
He said I can pinch him. I
Diane
said,
can.
don't say anything.
Diane can.
I said, don't ask any questions. He said he has to be on here.
You can throw it, I'll enjoy it.
No, almond joys. People throw the, no, not the.
Those are hard.
The.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 5:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. If you would all rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, first on our agenda is special recognition. Dr. Christian and Dr. Pierce will be presenting.
Good evening, thank you. We're here every year to recognize our teachers who have achieved their national board certification standards, and we're really proud of the 4 that have achieved that this past year. We are up to 136 teachers who have completed this process, and it's not an easy process. It's very grueling and time consuming, and that puts us at like 11 or 12% of our teaching staff have achieved this. So this is something we're really proud of. This year, talk a little bit about that. It's the most respected professional certification available in education and provides numerous benefits to our teachers, students, and schools. And it's designed to retain and recognize accomplished teachers and to generate just ongoing improvement nationwide. There's really 5 cores to it. We've reviewed this before, but teachers are committed to students and their learning. Teachers know the subjects they teach and how to teach those subjects. Teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. They think systematically about their practice and learn from experience. There's a lot of self-reflection involved in this process. And then they also are members of great learning communities. And you can guess who the 2 are that are smiling right now, so we're going to introduce them in a minute. Okay. So this year we had 4 achieve this: Kimberly Barrera, Brittany Royce, Rebecca Mogg, and Kendra Ledford. And we do have a poster for each of you. Tonight we have Rebecca and Kendra. Why don't you come on up? And if any of you want this poster, I have extras. Back at my table, I have these. Here is a list of all 136 teachers. We have communications help update this poster every year, and it goes out to all the buildings. You'll see it in this building and these two, so I'm really proud of it. So, Kendra. Sandra, congratulations. Why don't you shake everybody's hand?
Okay. Hi, congrats.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
How long did it take? How long did it take?
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, it was a lot of hours, a lot of sleepless
Did I?
hours, I know.
Well, you're not.
I did. Congratulations. Yeah.
And
Wow.
Doug, can I ask you, how many recertified this year?
Recertified this year were
Yeah,
8.
that's why she asked for the Venmo.
So it's a certification lasts for an amount of time and you have to re-up, and that's another process. So
Congratulations.
most of our 136 re-up. Yeah, we'll get the other 2 together and we'll get a picture of all 4 of them sometime so we can put that on our social media as well, on our website. So, thank you.
And can I request that you put the ones that recertified, at least their names on there? Because that's hard work too.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, what schools are you at?
Bridge.
Both at Southbridge.
And so is Brittany, so 3 of us take them off.
There we go.
Awesome.
Yay.
All right.
Thank you.
Congrats.
It's hard work.
Okay, our next presentation is the Career and Technical Education Month. Dr. Pierce.
Okay. Sorry. There we go. All right, well, it is National CTE Month, Career and Technical Education Month. So we want to take a moment to recognize our CTE programs and staff here in Kennewick. A little bit about CTE. CTE is at high schools. It's also at community and technical colleges and even at some four-year universities. CTE provides opportunities for students to earn industry certification, associates, bachelor's degrees, and even higher. And CTE is really good for our students, for our businesses, and for our local community. Just a few stats. I won't read these all to you, but there's a lot of good data and research that shows the positive impact that CTE programs and course taking has on students for their financial future, also has on employers, and the need for skilled workers continues to be a high need in our country and in our community. We offer a number of different CTE pathways here in our school district. You can see from agriculture to STEM to business and marketing and so forth. We also are really fortunate to have TriTech Skills Center. We're the host district, as you know, for TriTech, and that provides an incredible opportunity not just for Kennewick School District students, but for students in our region to participate in CTE courses. We always report this data every year, just how many students are earning dual credit through CTE, meaning they're earning both high school and college credit at the same time. In our school district, we have 65 courses right now that are CTE dual credit courses. And as you can see, we've got a high percentage of students who do earn college credit while they're in the high school, and the majority of those credits are through CTE dual credit. In our school district, CTE helps us provide opportunities for students to learn the skills and attributes that are found in our learner profile and helps us meet our goals that we have as a school district for our students. In Kennewick School District, we have 38 high school teachers who are CTE teachers, 10 middle school teachers who are CTE teachers. We've got 3 CTE counselors, and we have 1 workforce engagement coordinator as well. And of course, we have an assistant director for CTE, Abby Matson, and a director for CTE, Tricia Anderson. So I want to especially recognize them for their efforts this evening. And I will conclude by reading the governor's proclamation. It says, whereas February 2023 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education, and whereas CTE offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness, and whereas students in CTE programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement and achievement, and whereas CTE provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework and pursue established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, including construction, healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, and information technology. And whereas offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education leads to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials, and whereas ensuring that employers have access to a qualified workforce is a crucial step in ensuring productivity among the business and industry communities, as well as continued economic growth and competitiveness. And whereas February 23, 2023 marks the 106th anniversary of the signing of the Smiths-Hughes Vocational Education Act of 1917, which was the first major federal investment in secondary CTE and laid the foundation for the bipartisan, bicameral support for CTE that continues today. Now, therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim February 2023 as Career and Technical Education Month in Washington, and I encourage all people in our state to join me in this special observance. So with that, can give a big applause to our CTE programs and people here in Kennewick. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay. Next on our agenda is communications with parents, staff, and district residents. And we have no one signed up to speak in person. Do we have anyone online that's going to speak this evening? Okay. Well, there you go. That's a time saver. Perfect. Okay, next on the agenda is consent items.
I move to approve consent items as written.
Second.
First, second. Any questions or comments? If not, I will call for the roll call vote, please.
Mr. Galbraith,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Ms. Senvik,
Yes.
Mr. Mabry,
Yes.
and Mr. Connors.
Yes. Thank you. Next is superintendent and board member reports. Dr. Pierce.
So I'll be very brief and just give a quick update on where we are with levy results. They haven't been updated since the 17th, which was Friday. But as of Friday, our levy is passing at 55.64% with 11,040 yes votes. Total votes counted as of Friday were 19,842, and the election is set to be certified this Friday, February 24th. So we are very grateful and thankful for the community support, and thankful that our levy is passing, and we'll be able to definitively say that it passed when Friday gets here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Lyndon?
We have the student advisory meeting in the not next week, but the week after. And right now we're just working on we've mainly been speaking about bathrooms and bathroom safety and just trying to keep our campuses clean.
Wonderful. Thank you. Gabe, anything?
Yeah, so last Friday, I think it was maybe, Micah and I went and visited Southridge and Kennewick, just based on the bathroom feedback that we got from the students and what we wanted to go and just kind of check them out. And, while we went, bathrooms were clean. Just some of the stuff they brought up about being outdated. And one thing that came out of it, I think, is we typically, it sounds like we only have one custodial staff at the high schools during the day to monitor all the bathrooms and deal with just the grounds itself. So it was kind of interesting. The other thing is we talked about vaping. So Mike and I show up to Kennewick, and we walk into the first bathroom and someone's vaping in the bathroom. So it was like not planned, but it was a actual scenario there. So I think it is something we need to continue talking about and maybe see what the students can help with. But it seems to potentially be an issue, and I think we'll have to figure out a plan down the road for it. So that's it.
Perfect. Micah?
Happy the levy's passing, of course. That's good news. great news. I met with a couple teachers this week just to hear some feedback on a couple things that they have going on and issues and stuff, and it was very nice. Also, yes, we toured the two high schools. The first thing I want to say is that Kennewick High School is my first time really being in it, and it's ridiculous. It's awesome, and so that was very, very impressive. And not only we did tour the bathrooms, that was funny, the very first bathroom. So that was, that was something. But, the idea of going was to ask, find solutions, right? And so, and in that course, I think we got a lot of really good ideas. Like in Kennewick, for example, they have these, they're actually like propping the doors open so you can see right into the bathroom with the common area where you wash your hands, but the stalls are like individual and they're right all the way to the ground and stuff. So there's, I think we're kind of formulating ideas and just talking to a lot of different people what they think. And so I think we got really good feedback for that. And then just obviously just listening to the students, and that's why we're there, because I think that's an issue for the students. So we're really trying to look at that and tackle that. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Diane?
So let's see, 2 of the WASDA networking hours, which anybody can go to. It's for ledge reps, but anybody can go to noon to 1 on Thursdays. Racial Equity and Social Justice Coalition of Tri-Cities monthly meeting, the League of Urban Latin American Citizens monthly meeting. WASDA also now has started a ledge rep network, which is monthly, and that is talking about what we're doing, what the legislature is doing. Had coffee with a constituent who had questions about the levy, and great questions, and they were going to vote yes, but they had questions, and so I was happy to answer that. And then I do a weekly drive-by, called my weekly Ridgeview drive-by, and thank you to the district for sending out the drone footage of the Ridgeview thing. It is just great. I'm so excited. And then there's a couple of bills that Dr. Pierce and I will be talking with our legislators about on Monday when we're at the On the Hill thing. And it's SPED, safety net, the prejudgment interest, universal free lunch, and there's and the transportation funding. And none of them are as good as they said they were in the beginning, and so we'll see what we can do to try to make things happen a little bit better. But the one I think I'm most disappointed in is the 2 SPED ones from the Senate and the House both. I mean, there's some good stuff, but not as good as it should be, I think, and so it takes time. So that's it.
Perfect, thank you. Ron?
Yeah, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I actually had the luxury of talking to Representative Newhouse. And if you ever get a chance to go to Washington, D.C., make sure you get in touch with your representatives there, because they can give you special passes to take you to places that you can't just ordinarily walk out to. And I was able to go all over the place. And I don't know what. Washington, D.C. is a fascinating place, but there's a life underground. I don't know if you guys know about it. And all the buildings are connected underground. And you get this pass, you go with your senator or representative or their, the A's, and they'll take you all over the place. Anyway, had a great time with Newhouse and talking about special ed and feeding other kids. And he really seemed interested in what we had to do. He asked for some stats that I'll provide to him by the end of the week. I think he's an advocate for education, and we should, several times since I've been on this board, I tell people to go see your representatives. We're letting them off easy. Go see or talk to your representatives and stop trying to solve everything here when they are the elected officials to deal with things in the big house. I call it the big house, whether you're in the state or the federal level. And I think reaching out to them, they really appreciate it. And I walked away convinced that he wanted to help us with education issues.
Thank you.
Oh, I have one other thing.
Yes.
Sorry. I wanted to give you something. Oh, don't be nervous.
Really? Like when little kids pull cookies
It's
out of their
legal.
pockets.
It's legal.
Waza has this name for heroes of leadership. And I gotta tell you, this past year, you were hit with some stuff. I don't know if you, as a leader of this group, we all are leaders, but we elected Mike as our big leader. So I'd like to pass this on to you, Mike. This is a coin that was to give out to outstanding leaders, and I think you deserve it for this year.
That is very kind. I kind of needed that this week. Thank you. Really cool.
Maybe later.
Well, I was going to say, no, I can do that. Very cool. Truly, thank you.
You deserve it. Thank you.
As far as my update this week, I actually went to the JROTC promotion ceremony at Kennewick High here a couple weeks ago. And I got to tell you, I've been going to these for a couple years now, and the enthusiasm, the turnout, the young leaders they have in there was really inspiring. And it was really enjoyable for me to see. I think with COVID and all the things the kids kind of struggled, having a hard time engaging with each other. These kids were, the JROTC leaders were very well spoken, presented themselves very well, ran a really nice ceremony, and the kids were really, really engaged and enthused. So I was really proud of that. The colonel there running it was did a wonderful job. The kids all respect him. I was really pleased. So anyway, that was just a really neat ceremony, and I was happy to see the enthusiasm. Okay, that takes care of that. All right, next on the agenda is reports and discussions. First up, Mr. Roberts will be presenting on the 22-23 general fund budget and where we are.
All right, hope everybody's doing well. We'll get through a little 22-23 budget update and then talk a little bit about 23-24. So the numbers here, the budgeted enrollment and then projected here in this column right here. So actually we're going to look like we're going to come in over budget, which is good. The last couple of years have been a little rough. So you can see here about 147 students projected to be above budget. Here's the elementaries up here, about 85. And some of these mid-Columbia kids, you know, we didn't really know when we budgeted if they'd go back in the classroom. So some of this decrease has shown up here in the increase of 231. The number we watch quite closely is kindergarten, because, you know, the lower the kindergarten first grade, you know, those kids go through the K-12, and, you know, we'd like to see this number a little higher. We budgeted 1324, and it's quite a bit off from that budget number. But some other numbers were up. High school's up a little bit. Down here at the bottom, unfortunately, CTE month, enrollment's down. High school CTE this year. 68 is a pretty big drop. And a lot of those kids probably showed up back up here in the basic ed classes. But overall, a lot better news than expected. I think last year we were down about 100 kids from budget or more. And then you can see the head count down here also, you know, getting a little bit of increase. You can see it was 19,175 a few years before COVID, and we're approaching 19,000, 18,875. So that's good news also. And then special ed, as was reported last month, is up from prior year and up from budget. We expect to have about 2,600 average special ed students. These numbers were paid based on the average for over 10 months. So trying to project that average. And bilingual, we'll look at this, but there was a lot more students that haven't exited the program due to the COVID and you know, just being out of the classroom. So that number may decrease next year as kids kind of exit out of that program. So anyway, good news there. And hopefully these numbers will increase even a little more over the next few months. Generally high school, we lose kids, you know, from now to June. Elementary, sometimes we actually gain kids, but it's never quite that consistent. Any questions there on the enrollment? Our delta here is also, we'd like to see that a little higher, about 140 kids. Usually like about 148 in there. We paid Delta for, I think, 148 kids, so be nice if we get some more kids in there.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, please.
Our bilingual students, I think I asked this once before, is tutoring getting to them in a equal manner to our non-bilingual students and families?
That's probably not a good question for me. Alyssa would know more
sorry.
about that. I know we have put a lot more resources toward that.
Through varsity
Yes,
tutors?
because I think we talked about that once before, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
asked that same
Yes.
question. I just want to make sure, because, yeah, it's really hard for those students when they're not in classes, and tutoring is not the answer to not being in class, but
Right.
it does help. So are we working?
Yeah.
I know you're working hard.
So it's a little different because our migrant graduation specialists aren't necessarily bilingual,
Right.
but they are pushing tutoring and getting kids signed up. We have a ton of kids at Kennewick High and also Fuerza who are taking advantage of tutoring. It's because of those MGSs letting the families know about it and signing kids up.
And then how about all of our other schools? Like,
We've been tracking it and encouraging where there's an adult at the school advocating for it. We're getting more signups for tutoring.
is there something we can do to get
Yeah.
somebody else to do that?
We're starting to gather some success stories.
Okay.
And some parent narratives about they're seeing today. I was just talking to someone whose kid is competent in math. It's not reflecting grades, but they like school, they feel good, and we want to get those stories out and encourage more people to do it. So we are hoping more do it than do, and we want to put a little more energy behind it.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
So while she's here, she's going to talk a little bit about bilingual and the
I think
exited
we got it.
kids.
Sorry, real quick. With the enrollment, we have pre-COVID and we have where we're at right now. Do we have any data specific to, are these just removed from COVID specifically, or are we having more people move out versus move in? Like, is there a specific source of the decline in enrollment, or are we just saying it's still just COVID? Do we
Looking at the
know?
numbers, we know we've lost some kids to private schools. So,
Okay.
how many, I don't have that, I don't know that number, but I know there's kids lost to private schools. I know that, as we looked at some cohort information, I think that was maybe a year or so ago, you've seen that, Diane, where, we just didn't see some of those kids ever come back.
Yeah, because I think I read an article, Seattle Public Schools are losing a lot of kids, and they're moving out of the district to the surrounding districts, not necessarily because of COVID per se. So I just didn't know if we're just losing, like families are moving out, or versus it's just
We
being
don't
strictly
see any huge increase in Pasco or Richland that I know of. In most districts in the state, statewide, they're losing.
Yeah.
But, I'll keep tabs on that, anything I can.
Do you have
come up with.
homeschool numbers? Is there a way to track that?
We track and report the number of families who complete a declaration of intent to homeschool, and we have to, report on that. So we have that data. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Is that number going up?
I'll have to follow up. I know K-12 tracks the declarations of intent to homeschool. Teaching and Learning does, sorry. So we'll have to follow up. And some people are like part homeschool and part MCP. So that's the other thing. We'll just have to get the data to you in a clear manner. The other thing I'm wondering about is I know we have it, but we could follow up with it, that shows sort of the cohort survival from, the grade as kids are moving up in grades.
That was helpful.
So we can see by grade, when you compare the 1920 actual to where we are today, actual tracking like K-12.
Yeah, we can update that.
Where they are, yeah.
It's been a year or so since we
Yeah.
looked at that.
That was very helpful
Yeah.
to actually see that.
Yeah, so we've
Handed
gained a
out.
little bit back on that, but not, where we were.
And then quickly to follow up with Diane's question about the tutoring, are the staff in the schools well-versed on this varsity tutoring and know how to get kids into it so they can be proactive and say, okay, maybe, you know, Susie's just not quite getting there, so hey, maybe you can get into this varsity, just kind of like promoting it more, like our teachers are well-versed in that.
I think it varies. We've shared it with principals, we've shared it with parents, but it does seem to come up that people haven't heard of it. So that we're wondering too, what can we do to get more information out? It's a great resource to take advantage of.
Right, and that's why I just want to make sure like our staff even knows, hey, Johnny's just not quite there. Let's maybe recommend some tutoring or give them the option.
We were having this exact conversation on Monday in cabinet about, you know, the data shows that some schools, there's more students participating than in others. We've done the direct route to parents to try to give them the information directly, because you don't have to go through the school.
Yeah.
Right.
But we also, so we want to give parents that opportunity, but we do want staff, all staff to be like, hey, here's an additional resource that's available to you. And so we just need to do another kind of push in education. And the other thing we talked about, and Alyssa mentioned it with the success stories, if we could show, you know, people real stories of students who are benefiting from it, then it might help. It might help everybody see, yeah, there really is a benefit and there's really no downside to this at all, right? Of giving this to students. So we're still brainstorming and trying to figure out how can we make sure it's being used as it can be.
And our students don't have to be behind. It's
Right.
for
Right,
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
right.
So
There's another
anybody
resource
can,
in the toolkit. So if the staff knows,
I
they
want
can.
more taking advantage of it as well.
Yeah, I would want as many as.
Is transportation an issue?
So it's all virtual. I mean, it's not, it's online tutoring with a real person, but like you do it from home.
Some do it from home, some on the weekends. We do have
There's
a
some
few
in-school
school sites
programs.
doing it after school, and they do have transportation set up for it. So I don't think that's the barrier. I think knowing about it and getting signed up is probably the biggest barrier.
Sorry, hijacking your
No, and that's,
presentation, Nick.
I think we have some school data at the board, you know, some schools really have embraced it and figured it out a little better than others, and, but it's found its footing a lot better than it did last year, for sure. Yeah, and while you're here, why don't you talk about, you know, I say exited, bilingual, and some of these things, just kind of touch on that, what that means.
Yeah, well, and Vic kind of alluded to it. The WIDA test is a difficult test, and that's how the kids move out. And so we didn't really gain kids, we didn't exit them to a level of proficiency. So we're still working with them and trying to get them to that level of proficiency.
All right. Anything else on the enrollment or anything? We'll move on here, another slide. So this is a projected revenue and a projected cost, some of the areas that are good news to us here. Enrollment, when I talked about that enrollment number being up, that's worth about $1.4 million. And that's in the scope of about $160 million based on, you know, what we get from enrollment. Career and tech, so when that number goes down, the career tech program, that's $665,000 out of about an $8.5 million revenue source. And generally this money probably ended up here. Special ed enrollment, the 200 kids, about 1.8 million, so it's 22 million up to about 24 million. And in transportation funding, it's about 7.8 million is budgeted. Based on our ridership, comparing last year and this year's ridership and everything, we should still hopefully get about $8.8 million more. And then investment interest, some other monies there, about 750,000. So in the big scheme of things, you know, it's not a lot, but it is a lot for when you're looking at trying to balance revenues and expenditures and what we kind of went through. And then expenditures, so we had a lot of open positions, staff positions held, a couple in the curriculum department, and you see what that's worth. IT department, maintenance department, you know, the levy failed. We didn't know if the levy's going to pass this time. So, you know, we've been pretty, you know, managing the budget and a lot of open positions, they're just not getting filled. Custodial 6 positions there, where we combine some people going to a couple different schools and saving some money there. And then quite a few unfilled positions still. So you're looking at about probably anywhere from really $6 to $10 million that's to the good for the budget, and will help us out, for the next couple of years there. And these positions, then, we'll start looking at filling some of those. So that's good news. And, most of the expenditures, other, supplies, things like that, they're all, tracking pretty well. If we can knock out some more, IT type costs and computers and things, we'll try to do that this year too. Utilities, fuel, we talk about that. It's a big portion of the non-staff budget. I think that's, non-staff budget, say $40 million, and this is going to cost about $8 million. You see the budget here. Natural gas is expensive. You can see back here in 2021, $556,000. The rates have went up 40% from here to here. So it went up 18% in 2021, 22% in 2022. That's out of our control. We can turn the heat down. That is in our control, but people don't like that. So anyway, we can do a little better there, but that's, these are costs that it's hard for us to contain. You can see electric, that's just PUD costs. That's pretty close to budget there. Garbage is a big one. It's pretty much doubled in the past 5 years. Recycling costs money, and we're trying to look at and figure out what we can do to reduce some costs there. Change some bin sizes, some pickups, recycling bin, but there's just a lot of fees, and a lot of it's on recycling. So we're looking at that, and then fuel, not what we're used to. And we generally budget $900,000 a year, no matter what, just to have that there, and that hasn't been enough. So looking about 1.15 million, and we'll probably have to budget at least that next year. Liability insurance, generally around $3 million. We're a little under budget there, which is good. So overall, 7.8 million on the utilities, fuel, insurance. So 8.8 million projection. So that's not too bad. And generally, we're usually under, but it's just been some things going on there. And then the 23-24, the budget is going to go up probably at least 750,000 from this budget here, 7.8 to 8.6. So we're looking at this, which is, we know generally we say 500,000 a year for these cost increase. Sometimes it's less, it's generally not more, but budget-wise, 23-24 probably is going to go up 750,000 in these areas. So it gives you a little look there of this year's cost and what we'll be looking at next year on the budget. And like I said, fuel, I'm still not quite sure if that's going to be enough.
So big question for you on the fuel. Are we exempt from the climate, Inslee's Climate Policy Act, over there charging the 42 cents a gallon?
I have to go look at that and see if that's on the bill or not.
I wasn't sure, because I know that
I didn't think we were, but I can double check. I'll get back to you.
I just wasn't sure. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Because I mean, that's almost $100,000
Yeah.
based on those numbers right there.
I can't remember if I've seen that or not, to be honest. But, and we do bid out the fuel every year. We go out for bid on that.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, because that's we're looking at like a $3 million increase, it looks like, over the last couple of years, just in that bottom line of that budget.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
That's
when we go over the budget, it's always, 500,000 at least. And if we can try to contain some things, we've looked at insurance deductibles, changing those. We go from a 10,000 deductible to a 25,000. If we have a lot of money in the bank, we can do that, and that could save you $50,000, $60,000. So we try to do some stuff like that, but they're not huge hitters, but every little bit helps. And then just for 22-23, maintenance type costs, just to get familiar with some of the little projects, there's a lot of costs for supplies and services, but some of the stuff that needs to be done, Cottonwood has a septic tank out there, and water runs off, and there's problems. So there's some work done out there, 50,000, some drain tie in here, Desert Hills. So you just kind of look down the list We still have some mascot costs here, turf, change out, gym floor logo, sand that down, change that out. That's from a grant, those two there. Some city crosswalks. We'll probably have to contribute some money there. I mean, I'm not sure how much, but it could be 50,000 or so. We're looking at some ECAP parking lot improvements over here. And then possibly in the next couple of years, looking at ECAP, expanding some more parking there. Keewaydin, they're scheduled for a fall service and some replacement toys this summer. Sagecrest, they've collected some money to do some playground work, and they'll give us, contribute some towards this cost. We have about 10 vans, 2 of them, one needs a transmission, one has an engine that's went out. We're going to repair one, and we've ordered another van. And those are hard to come by, so we found one, and we did order it. Legacy, they have 10 units there, 2 have failed, and those will be replaced. They're about 17,000 a unit. Horse Heaven Hills has intercom systems not working right, it's $40,000. So just down the list, I mean, stuff costs quite a bit of money. These are smaller items. We're evaluating some of these costs down here. They're bigger costs. With the levy failing, we pretty much put a lot of that on hold, and we'll see if we can knock some of this out. And then down here at the bottom, these are some things that the board brought up. Southridge parking lot cameras are going to be installed there. They're in process. They might already be installed. I'm not sure. Legacy, the vacant land, looking at that. Southridge, there was, what can we do with that triangle? Plant something, and then shade structures. So those are all, on there to kind of look at. But anyway, that gives you an idea there. Any questions there as you peruse through that? Yeah.
On the Desert Hills sewer drain tie-in, is that related to the building process? Is that on the construction?
No, it's kind of off the build. It's not in the building.
Okay.
It's where it ties into a main off.
So it's not it's not the fault of the construction site. I'm just wondering, are we responsible for that, or would that be?
It could be some settling happened or something. So
I'm just wondering if somebody else should share part of that.
We're trying, but it's a little bit out of warranty on that.
That's I wonder.
So yeah, if they can just fix it right this time, that'd be nice. So,
this time, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it's not quite done yet. They need to go back and do some more work. Yeah. So anyway, that gives you a little idea. There's a lot more going on, but hopefully that helps. And then ESSER funding, just an update there. We project at the end of August 31st to have spent this much money. Some of this, like transportation staff, we don't use ESSER anymore to fund transportation. That was during COVID when, the buses weren't running. But a big chunk of it does go to maintain staff and pay for positions. Mental health services, tutoring, right? Those are costs that, we're trying to figure out as we ESSER money sunsets, how do we keep some of those services, through 24, 25 and beyond. That's in the back of our mind there. Summer school, we'll be doing that the next couple of years. So anyway, we have about 21 million left. And we don't expect the state to extend the ESSER money to 24, 25. So some states, there's an application process and they'll let you use it in 24, 25. Our state does not appear to want to do that. It's basically an individual type thing for school districts, and they pretty much indicated just try to get all your money and work from that. So that's what we'll try to do, is pull down all this 21.3 million, over the next year. Any questions there? And then looking forward to 23-24 budget. So we kind of have the projected, which we talked about the first slide, and then the preliminary numbers here. So we're going to be pretty conservative here budgeting, and no increase really. For elementary school here, down about 87. So that's because there's a 5th grade class and about 1,420 students. And, the kindergarten 1st grade class is only like 1,300 students. So you lose the 5th grade and you bring in and it's just, the math is just, we lose some kids. Now, maybe we'll get some more kids in and that'll even out, hopefully. and then pretty conservative on middle school and high school. And, we'll look at middle school, high school, look at that a little closer since we have February now. Can get a little better idea of where that might end up and then project that out for next year. But a lot of states, as you've seen, there's enrollment's down and there's a lot of financial problems that you'll be reading about. So we'll see how we can get through things. And then legislative funding. So special education, Diane mentioned it, a possible increase to the multiplier. And that is, we get a little more money for kids that are in the classroom over 80% of the day, and then a little less for the ones not. But there's a multiplier there that they are looking at adjusting. I think both bills kind of have an adjustment to that. It's not what was in the original bills. It's a lot smaller. And then an increase to the funding cap. We're capped at 13.5% based on their formula. And we're at 13.04. So even if they raise that cap, it's going to be a few years before we would actually see some funding result from that. Any questions there on special ed? I think they're talking about a 14% funding cap maybe.
15,
and then phasing it back
15% right now.
So that'll help quite a few schools in the state, but it won't impact us right away. This top one would impact us.
There was a thing that just dropped Monday, was that we have to pay 50% up front before we can ask of our own money, levy money for SPED, before we can ask, or before we can get the state funding. So that was new on Monday. That's not a good thing.
It seems like a lot of money, 50%
Yes, it does.
of it. I don't even know, we don't even do that right now.
No.
But anyway, that's.
Do you know which bill that is?
It's a substitute, and I don't know the number, but Paulette is 14, whatever his was.
So that would eliminate a lot of districts getting extra money, if that's the case. But
I think that's going to change, but I don't know why it was even there.
so, and then transportation, there were two bills, the Senate and House bills. They were both to change the funding formula for transportation. Pretty similar, and it would result in school districts receiving additional revenue. But the most recent update is both those bills have been pretty much, I guess, kind of gutted, eliminated a lot of the language. And the language really now is about special populations. So if you track your special ed, foster kids, you can turn that in and maybe get, full cost for those kids. And that would result in probably a little bit of an increase, but not near what was originally planned. And then we're still waiting. The legislature will come out with a cost of living increase. They base it on the implicit price deflator, and we don't know what that is yet. And then the budget outlook for 22-23, the levy failed. We lost $20 million. 23-24, $14 million. As indicated, we've managed the staffing budget, used ESSER, and that will all help offset the use of fund balance, which will have more to work with in the 23-24, 24-25. So 23-24, even with $14 million levy loss, given some of the things that I've discussed, we're in a pretty good financial position to address some challenging areas. Special ed, 200 more kids. What's that do? Evaluate that impact. Is there more staff needed? Some of that. The SEL, social emotional learning. There was more money provided to school districts, for that effective this year. But our district, since we failed to levy, we really didn't go hire that staff. So we'll have to look at that. We are a little behind on where we should be. So that's something we'll take a look at. The security officers were probably in good enough shape with some of the savings we have, some of the ESSER to look at, starting that probably earlier than would be expected. And then we've been doing some health room coverage with some grants. We have 19 nurses, and we have about 8 or 9 other support positions that have been worked into that schedule to give schools full coverage, which has been really helpful to the nursing staff, the schools, and we'll look at, we think that grant's going to continue through 23-24, and we'd like to, continue with that staffing also. And then we're going to have to continue to use, ESSER money for 23-24. On paper, 23-24 is not going to look that good since we lost the $14 million. But, we'll be looking for 24-25 as we were kind of looking through next year with 24-25 in mind on how that will shape up. And we talked about some of these costs difficult to control. Another big area is IT costs. There's just a lot of costs there with software and applications, cybersecurity, our power school, all that. And then some of these programs, we're doing the online MCP endeavor. That's pretty much fell into place pretty well. And continuing that, how do you continue mental health services tutoring when the ESSER money's gone? Looking beyond on how we can sustain some of that. The budget timeline, so the session is supposed to be done April 23rd. Sometimes it ends on time, most of the time it doesn't. So we'll see. And then March through May, we'll be talking about some of these budgets and continue that. And then June 21st, have a public hearing and adopt our budget. So any other questions as we, lots of stuff there. And keep informing you of some budget things the next few months.
Yeah, okay.
First, I want to say, Vic, thank you, and thank you to your team. You've had a lot of variables thrown your way the last 6 months to a year with different budgets and all that stuff. So I just want to say thank you for all the updates and what you've provided us. With the ESSER funding, I know you showed like 10 or 12 like big buckets. Do we even have that broken down even more? Like what would fall under those, or like if I wanted to look at it one day, like we could see what's under each category of that.
These are pretty much the big ones, but there's details to it.
Okay. I just was curious. Okay.
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you.
Quick comment, and I forgot to mention, and so did Gabe, we both attended online the state auditor's office entrance exam for our auditing, and this will be the third year I've done it, and they always have great things to say about how you and your department do things, and you're always so calm, and I know there's lots of numbers going around, but you're always so calm, cool, and collected, so I appreciate the work you do with that.
Yeah, well, thanks. We'll see if they get through the audit, how that goes here.
Yeah,
right.
they're always very complimentary, even before they even start.
I'm going to save my nice comments till after the audit.
Yeah.
Nah, it'll be good.
All right. Perfect. Good. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay, next report will be the boundary scenarios and impacts. Mr. Phillips will be presenting.
Okay, good evening. Like Mr. Connor said, I'm here to give you an update on where we are with potential boundary changes. And then in the last part of the presentation, I have 3 scenarios that I'd like to show you, potential scenarios that we could implement. Really beginning, just remembering this is not going to take effect this coming school year. It'll take effect the following, the 24-25 school year. One of our district goals, strategic goal, is the Kennewick School District is innovative, proactive, and accountable. And then one of the objectives underneath there speaks to a boundary change that will conduct a review to determine if school boundaries need to be adjusted. So that's what we're doing tonight. If you'll remember, I was here just kind of given a kind of explain the plan for the boundary change. That was on December 14th. Talked a little bit about how we're going to go about that. And then some of the heavy lifting started with, like I've held meetings with elementary principals just to talk to them, get their input on what that could look like. Talked with Lexi Bushback, our Director of Special Education, just to see if from her point of view, some of the things that we were thinking about would that affect special ed programs. I have spoken with our transportation department, again, just to hear from their point of view. It's like, if we're looking to do this and move students from this school boundary to that school boundary, what's that going to do to you, transportation, in transporting those students? And then, of course, I've met with people, at the district office. I've met with Dr. Pierce and Matt Scott and Vic Roberts. I drug Greg Fancher out of retirement to come help us because he's done a number of boundary changes. Then he's been a big help. Then again, tonight is February 22nd, just sharing where we are. In March, then we'll start meeting with some parent groups. We'll have some parent forums just to present what we have and then take their input. And then from that, then we'll have a study session, a board study session on April 26th, where we'll take a look at where we are with scenarios, talk about the parent input that we received from those meetings. And then in May, 10th and 24th, and we would come with an initial recommendation. And then on the 24th, we'd be looking for a final recommendation, or we'll come with a final recommendation, looking for board action on that. So that's our timeline. So this is a list of our elementary schools. I showed this in December. It's just a reminder that this is a list of our students, or I'm sorry, our schools and their enrollment from the lowest to the highest. So Edison on October, the October enrollment count had 326 students. And then you compare that to, on the bottom there, the bottom of the list, Amon Creek had more than twice that amount of students at 739. So one of the things we're looking to do is to try to equal that out a little bit. Amon Creek was built to be larger, and some of the other schools like this, Sunset View and like Vista are just built smaller, so they're going to have a smaller population, but just trying to even that out somewhat. The goals for the boundary adjustment: distribute enrollment more equitably, accommodate future growth in the west end of the district. We spent a lot of time, today's Wednesday, it must have been, I guess, yesterday, where we met, we talked a lot about, and we'll take a look at it, talked a lot about the south side of Thompson Hill, which doesn't, at least towards the west of that, doesn't have a lot of homes yet, but there will be a lot of homes. Yeah. And then also, Mr. Roberts, last board meeting, showed you pictures of earth being moved up on Riata as it passes over the freeway. So there are going to be a lot of homes in there. So some of the things that we're talking about is to make room for students, for those students when those families move out there. We're looking to increase enrollment at Ridgeview. They're going to gain 4 classrooms. They're already small, but then they're going to gain 4 more classrooms. So we're looking to increase enrollment there. And then looking to decrease enrollment at Amon Creek and Sagecrest. These are the schools and the scenarios that I'll be showing you. These are the schools that would be affected in those 3 scenarios. And you can read them there. The Ridgeview, again, trying to make them larger. Amon Creek and Sagecrest make them smaller, trying to grow some of those smaller schools. The boundary process, talked to us a little bit about this in December. So we use a new mapping software where I can take my mouse and draw a box, and actually they call it a polygon, and you'll see why I mentioned that when we get to the maps. But like a polygon around like a neighborhood, and then the software would tell us how many students are in that boundary, among some other things. We can. We haven't looked at it a lot yet, but it could also tell us some of the demographic information about the students within that polygon. Again, I talked with transportation, talked to Lexi Bushback, the special ed director. We've also talked a little bit, but not completely, talked about grandfathering students. What do we want to have? Do we want to look at, like, say, fifth graders at a school, letting them stay potentially and so forth? We still have that discussion to come. Like I said, I met with a lot of different groups of people. We'll be meeting with parents. And then, of course, like tonight, we're seeking board feedback on the work so far. So scenarios. So I think all of you have a copy of this map here. This is where we are right now. So you can see, those are the schools that will be affected by what we're talking about. We didn't label, however, like in that pink over on the right, that's Westgate. We didn't label them because they're at least as of right now, aren't going to be affected. So you look at that map and then take a look at the first scenario. So what I'll do is I'll just go one section at a time and kind of explain where those groups are and where they'll go to. So let's see here. So like this polygon here, the word polygon is there because when I draw that that box or that polygon, it drops that word in there, and I can't get rid of the word. So anywhere where you see polygon, that's where a change is going to be. So in this area right here, this is right now it belongs to Amon Creek, and we'd be looking to move that to Sunset View. This is that area. This is Steptoe right here. This is Center Parkway. Amon Creek's over here. This is Clearwater. So there are 20 students in that little neighborhood there. So we'd be looking to move them from Amon Creek into Sunset View. Also, I want to mention, so you see a whole bunch of dots. Those dots represent not students, but addresses. So a single dot could be just one student. It could be a home with 5 students. If the address is like an apartment building, it could be 15 students. So the dot equals an address. This polygon here, this boundary here, this is all of Hanson Park. Right now, Hanson Park belongs to Amon Creek, and we'd be looking to move that into the new Ridgeview. So like Steptoe here, Clearwater, Center Boulevard, and then the back of what I think is called Hanson Park Heights. It's in the back of that there. So that would go to Ridgeview. This section right up here belongs to Ridgeview. We'd be looking to move that to Sunset View to grow them a little bit. I think there are, in this area right here, there's 184 students. In this little section here, I think it's 46 students.
And they'll go to where?
Sunset.
That 46 would go to Sunset View.
And I'm sorry, I was trying to keep up.
Yeah, that's right.
You said a spot below
Right here,
Amon
right.
Creek.
This Hanson Park goes
Yeah,
to
this-
The
Ridgeview.
Hanson Park. Okay.
Yeah, that goes to Ridgeview.
From that line.
That would go to Ridgeview.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
And
you're welcome.
could you tell me again that number that went to Ridgeview? How many would that be?
In Hanson Park,
Uh-huh.
184.
And one thing, just real quick, Rob, if you can just advance to the next
Yes.
slide so they can see what's
Yes.
coming. After each map and scenario, Rob will show kind of the neighborhoods, and then we'll show what the
Okay.
effect
Number.
of
you.
implementing this scenario would be, and how many students would be coming or going and from and to, okay? Yeah, so you don't have to write it all down.
Right, so like as an example, this Amon Creek is negative 184, that's Hanson Park. And then it's offset up here with Ridgeview 184 coming from Amon Creek.
Could we get a printout of that later at some date?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
This area right up here, right now belongs to Hawthorne. And one of our goals is to grow Vista. because they're pretty small right now. So we would take this little portion of Hawthorne and move it to Vista, right, correct. So down here, I want to move down to this area here. Right now, this area belongs to Sagecrest. Yep, I think right across the street from Micah. Yep. So we would, in this scenario, and actually it's in all three as well, the other two as well, we would be moving these families to Lincoln Elementary. This right here is, that's Southbridge Boulevard. Back up this way, it's like the canal that follows along Creekstone. This is Hildebrandt, which turns into the Bob Wilson Parkway. There are 65 students in that area that we would move to Lincoln. And because we're moving some students into Lincoln, we'd also be looking at moving some students out of Lincoln and into Edison, which is our smallest school.
So the one you're just over, those two columns.
This one?
Up there.
Yep.
That one. So that one is Edison. Where's that one?
This one belongs to
Lincoln is
Lincoln.
going to Edison. And then the other one right above it?
Yeah, just off to the side there. This one here would also go to Edison.
Oh, that's Edison. Okay.
Yeah, that's a total of 83 students. And again, that's all, will be on that next slide. The other thing that we, like I said, we talked a lot about is the south side of Thompson Hill.
Yeah.
What to do, with those homes that are already there. There's some homes there, but also they terraced a lot of that land on the side of the hill, and so they're going to be putting homes in there eventually. What we're proposing is that, so this area right here belongs to Sagecrest. We're looking at sending these students, who there aren't a lot there right now, but there will be, sending them to Ridgeview. I guess the hope one day, I mean, those students are pretty close to where Ridgeview is, but there's a hill between them. The hope would be is at some point they'd cut a road in there. When I talked to transportation about that possibility, they said, yeah, we would just drop these students here down to the Bob Olson Parkway and then come up through here by Irving, and there's a,
Grant.
There's a roundabout here. They just go to the roundabout, hop on Creekstone and get them over to Ridgeview. So it's not a huge impact right now because there just aren't that many students there, but there will be. And so we'd be looking at this line right here is it's McKinley. It's a new street in McKinley. Mm-hmm. It starts down here, and we would just have it go all the way up. That would be the dividing line between this area and this area. And then we would want to move this line right here cuts right through a neighborhood. This line right here was put there before they ever started plowing up the south of Thompson Hill. But right now it goes through what will be a neighborhood. So we are looking at having that line come out to here. And it's it'll be sort of a natural place to put it because there's a ravine that's cut, there's a ravine there, which would separate neighborhoods, we believe. And then we'd also be looking at, this is Cottonwood over here. We'd be looking at moving this line from the Bob Olson Parkway heading south, southwest, I guess, moving that line over to here, which would, I hate to put it this way, but would kind of stunt the growth of Sagecrest because Sagecrest is just getting so full. There's like 10 portables on their campus. And so we'd be wanting to put that line, put that line here. Put that line there so the growth for Sagecrest would stop and then would pick up with for Cottonwood there. So that is scenario one. Here's that table that Tracy was talking about. So, like you said, we'll get this to you so that you have that, but, so it shows, like for Edison, oh, actually, I forgot, no, I did show you that one. So for this one right here, 83 students are going to be coming from Lincoln, and then it shows down here that there are 83 students leaving Lincoln to go to Edison. And then with all of these in play here, this shows what the projected enrollment would be in scenario one. So we have Edison going from, like, say, 326 students to about 409 students, give or take. And then you can see the others there. The Ridgeview, the capacity of Ridgeview is 520. This would give us some room to grow. That's like south side of Thompson Hill, for example. Any questions on scenario one?
I'm not sure the exact address. Ely and about 13th across from the PUD. There are all those apartments going in there. I don't know. There's a lot of apartments going in there. I don't know how many, but have we?
I honestly haven't driven by.
Drive up there. It's.
I know what you're talking about.
If
Like
you-
across 395 from Fred Meyer?
Yeah, where Ely is
Yep.
and PUD is there, and you go just past that before you get to the old county shop.
Yes.
There's a whole big apartment complex going in there. I don't think there's anybody living there yet, but
Okay.
it keeps expanding every time I go
Okay.
by. It's multi apartments.
So that'll be a good,
It's all Southgate, like it's just,
Yeah, but it's
It
so,
would be.
it's so many. I just want you to keep that in
Okay.
mind,
I
that
appreciate that.
when you're playing with those Southgate numbers.
Okay, I appreciate that. I wasn't aware. I try to drive around as much as possible, look for that kind of thing. I just haven't seen that.
It's a lot.
Okay. Anything else on scenario one? So scenario two, there's the current map that you have in front of you. So scenario two is similar, but there's
Similar but
about
different?
at least one difference. What's that?
Similar but different.
Yeah. So the main difference, again, over here, we have these 20 students. We're gonna send to Sunset View. The big difference is right here with Hanson Park. So I kind of think of Hanson Park in three sections. One is this section here, which was kind of the original Hanson Park that's between Clearwater and 4th Avenue. And then another one from 4th down to 10th, and then from 10th to the back of Hanson Park Heights. So in scenario two, we would be looking at taking this northernmost part of Hanson Park, which is 70 students, and moving them to Sunset View. And because we're moving those 70 students to Sunset View from Hanson Park, then this area here, which we, in scenario one, we were moving that section into Sunset View. We're going to let them, in this scenario, stay with Ridgeview. We wouldn't move them. You still have the same thing on the south side of Thompson Hill, the Sagecrest area moving to Lincoln, these two neighborhoods moving to Edison, and then this area here, which is Hawthorne, moving into Vista. So it's similar, but the big difference would be what we do with Hanson Park and this area up here.
And Rob, just to clarify, that lower polygon part of Hanson Park goes to Ridgeview still.
That still goes to
In this
Ridgeview,
scenario.
yes.
And there are more apartments going in there on the north side of Hanson Park, right in front of CCB.
Yes.
And there will be a lot of them there too.
Yeah, it looks like there already are some that are looks like they're pretty close to being finished, but they're also starting to build.
Right on CCB.
Right.
Yeah.
So Rob, from when I see that, this, the part where you have the one section coming right out of the middle of those, you take those kids and you send them to where?
This one here,
No, back where your arrow was.
Here?
Yeah, where they're going to.
Yeah, so this one stays with Sunset View like we had in scenario one. This northern part of Hansel Park would go to Sunset View.
So those two together go to Sunset View.
They would, yes, they both go to Sunset View.
Okay.
And then this lower portion of Hansel Park would still go to Ridgeview.
So those two polygons could actually be one. That section is going.
These two here? Yeah, right, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the table with that. Take it into account. Works the same way. So 83 from Lincoln, 83 from Lincoln going to Edison as an example. And you can see the projected enrollment for scenario 2.
When you're doing this, and I know this is petty, but you're taking into account that, hey, you have neighbor here and this neighbor kids go to one school, and you're trying to eliminate that much as
Yes.
possible.
Yeah, yes. So if we go back, so we really wanted to grow Vista.
Yeah.
And really the only way, I mean, we can't really take it from Sunset View because they're already small. So really the only place, well, or take it from Edison, which is also pretty small, would be to take it from Hawthorne. And so this road here is Volland, I believe. And so I didn't want to give them that whole thing because it'd be way too many students and would make Hawthorne too small, well below 400. So I drove up into that area. Kamaikan sits over here. I drove up into that area and realized there is a way to draw this line. The line's not a road, but it's, so like over here, these are homes coming in off of Volland, and they back up to this area here. So there's like a fence line there. And just looking at the map, it stumped me because yeah, you're right. We don't want, I'm living in this house at 327 and my neighbor over here at 325, they should go to the same school. So yes, all of this here takes into account that we want close neighbors to stay together, neighborhoods to stay together.
Neighborhood schools.
Yeah, neighborhood schools, right. That's kind of, and honestly, the neighborhood school concept is what Kennewick School District Board of Directors has really hammered home over the years is neighborhood schools.
Neighborhood schools.
Yeah.
I think scenario 2 looks this much better to me.
In what way, did I ask?
Just looking at, I'm looking at the map, and just seems like the natural roads and where you would kind of get to the schools. It seems like there's bigger, more natural roads. It seems like the flow is a little better.
Okay.
My only question really is considering the neighborhood idea, the east side of Sagecrest really expands quite a bit east. But I guess other schools seem to be close to full, but you're kind of getting out of the neighborhood where that other little polygon there on where, Ron is, that seems like more part of the neighborhood. Matter of fact, that is actually the same neighborhood. Technically, it's all South Ridge Estates, so that's all the same neighborhood. So that's, I don't know, that whole neighborhood concept.
Yeah, right. That's what we tried to do.
happens when
We talked a little bit early on. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the problem when we are not able to work always with city planners, that huge amounts of apartments or houses or townhomes or whatever are put in one area
Right.
without thought to, there are schools and how many kids
Yeah.
can we put in them,
True.
Some states make schools and construction people work together. And I wish that we did that here. It would make
Yeah.
things easier for everybody.
So like that very east section, I mean, if that can be absorbed in the other, the east section of Sagecrest, very, very bottom northeast section to
Northeast?
Yeah, past Canyon Lakes to the
Yep,
right. Yeah,
yep.
right there, yeah. If that could be absorbed in and then you keep that other neighborhood, that's more neighborhood centric, you know, but.
So you would keep this with Sagecrest, but move some of this
That-
out?
Yeah, because you're talking about the community neighborhood, Phil, and that literally is the same neighborhood that you're cutting in half, or that really is a whole 2 neighborhoods away,
Yeah, and
quite a ways away.
and I can't move this map because it's a snapshot. To do that, we would,
We added the east gate.
we'd have to add to Southgate,
Yeah.
which is where some of those students, I think, came from when Sagecrest was built, or to Cascade.
Yeah, is that
maybe.
Cascade right there where your cursor is?
Yep, yeah.
And the one right south of that, is that,
Uh,
or north, excuse me.
north of it?
there, yeah. Is that Eastgate or, oh, Southgate?
This is, this right here, that's Cannon View, I believe.
Yeah.
This right here,
Okay,
I believe that's Cannon.
Okay.
It's hard, but I can't see the whole
There's no
map.
room there.
So as I look, I know we've got another scenario, but
Yep.
I'll ask this
Yep.
now since we're going into that one. So the first 2 scenarios to me, we're subtracting, we're almost a net subtraction from Lincoln. And from what I can tell, they're going to have about 100 student capacity roughly still available. Are we expecting more growth in there, that we're going to need that
For Lincoln?
for Lincoln, or that we're going to need that capacity to be almost 100 short? Or is there a way where we can move the bound, like get some more students from maybe Ridgeview or Sagecrest and open up more? Because I'm assuming we're looking at Ammon Creek, Sagecrest, like those are going to be the big, probably in Ridgeview, they're going to be getting the growth. So I'm just wondering if maybe we need, maybe look at some more sections adding to filling in that 100 capacity gap to Lincoln potentially.
Potentially, I mean,
Because I don't think there's going to, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what growth's going to go in that
yeah, right.
section per se, but just a thought.
Rob, can you go back real quick to the slide that shows the current, not the current map, I'm sorry, the current enrollment, at each school, that
Oh, yeah.
table, just a few back?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, so the capacity says 522, and I think in both scenarios, we're looking at like 423. So there's, I mean, that's almost 3 classes worth of students that we wouldn't be there. So I guess if we look at moving the lines potentially a little bit into Southridge and Sagecrest and pulling a few more students into their school, which would allow a little bit larger capacity in those schools for growth. But again, just a suggestion or something
Like
to look
at
at.
Lincoln, primarily, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Pierce, you're writing.
I am taking good notes.
Don't forget.
Just this bottom, what's this one again? The very bottom?
Let me get to it. Oh.
Is that Cascade?
Yes, like where it goes from a lighter pink to
Yeah,
to like a purple color. I believe that's Cascade, yeah.
okay. I just said because Canyon View has 42 to gain, there's a little bit of room in Canyon View. Right? So I'm just wondering about the little pink area, adding the Canyon View.
This area here.
Yeah.
The only question is those apartments I was telling you about, that's right there down on Ely and 13th, so you could say 10th, I guess. We used to have, years ago, kids that lived on closer to Ely, went through the gully and then over to Canyon View a long time ago.
Oh.
And so that puts those new apartments right in that area. So rather than sending them to Southgate, which really makes sense because they're closer,
Very
but
close.
depending on where you have to move numbers, I don't know. I mean, certainly Southgate would make more sense. They can walk. I mean, if they want.
From those apartments?
Yeah.
The new ones?
I mean, they could if they wish.
Possibly.
Little
Yeah, they
people,
could.
little people didn't want to.
That might be a busing
Yeah.
area.
So one way or the other, you're gonna have to
move
bus.
somewhere.
Does this, the other question I have really quick too, does this moving some larger chunks of students to different schools, does that impact any of their like, I won't say Title I or free and reduced lunch? Like, is there an impact in that when you're moving, 100 plus students from one school to another one? Is it going to drop any schools out of any categories that?
So like this trade here between Hawthorne and Vista, probably not. They're fairly close in demographics. From Ridgeview, like this polygon, we're in scenario 1. Like this area here, moving it to Sunset View might be a little bit different, but not, I don't think significantly.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any schools that are like teetering on any numbers where there's extra added staffing or benefits, and then if we move some kids, then they drop, and then we're like, so
Like then maybe they would lose title funding.
something like that. Yeah, so just,
Yeah, that's always, I suppose.
that's all. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Scenario 3? Okay. Scenario 3, there's the current map. Now, scenario 3 is not a lot different than scenario 1. The difference is it keeps all of Hanson Park together, like in scenario 1, keeps all of Hanson Park together, moves them into Ridgeview. And then in scenario 1, when we moved all of Hanson Park into Ridgeview, we moved this area, this polygon, we moved that into Sunset View. So this scenario, we'd still move this 20 here into Sunset View, but this scenario keeps this area here in Ridgeview. That's the difference really between scenario 1 and 3. It's this polygon here.
Yeah, and if you look at the map, I don't know, maybe I should drive it, but it seems like that's, because you're crossing up through that industrial area versus just driving right straight into the south into the neighborhood where, it'd be still the same way in Hanson Park, but you're right by the school. You just get on what is that? It's not Bubbles anymore, it turns into whatever.
Hildebrand?
Hildebrand, yeah, and then you go, so that seems like it's really easy flow, easier than the other. That's why I would say scenario 2 slightly
better,
in my opinion.
1 or 3.
Just traffic for a while, and then it keeps your neighborhood calm.
So I'm probably going to ask an obvious question with the easy answer here, but I'm a teacher at Ammon Creek and 180 kids are moving. Yep. Therefore, are those teachers moving to those schools that the students are going to, or is there a way where it's like open for people to apply to move to those positions, or do those teachers just automatically go?
So like, I don't know, Dr.
Contract language.
There,
When we need to move teachers to the student population, so we follow that process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Based on seniority.
Yeah.
Pool sometimes, higher.
Okay.
So we do it every year on a very small scale. When Vic and I sit down and look at staffing for elementary, we'll have to move maybe one teacher out of this building because they just don't have the FTE to support it, and we follow that contract language. So like for this, we would do it on a little bit larger scale, like moving 184 students means we're going to need to move X amount of teachers.
Because I think that could be, obviously that's a big change for some schools and culture dynamics and all that stuff, so.
Yep.
Okay.
For sure. And then there's the table for scenario 3. So this scenario pretty quickly fills up Ridgeview. They're now bumping up right up against what we think would be a cap for Ridgeview.
Scenario. Is it what? Well, that's not the right word. I have a little concern when, for example, I guess I'm looking at Vista. So enrollment 358, they can go at 402 is capacity. You've got a whole extra classroom plus of kids when you go to 434. Do we have empty spaces that we're going to be
Like at
filling?
Vista,
Yeah,
they do have some empty spaces there.
because, I mean, you put about, 50, or a little less than 50 in, so that's about 2 classrooms. But then you got an extra 30 some, so that's a third, so you're over, by 32 kids.
So Vista has some unused portables at their building, so we would use those.
I hate portables.
I know.
Actually, I don't hate portables. They just are not conducive to feeling like you belong to the school. And nobody,
Yeah.
some people want to be in them, some people
Some
don't.
teachers love it.
Right.
And
If they're wet portables, yes.
Well,
If they're just
especially if
dry
they're wet,
portables,
but
no.
But I've even known teachers who, regardless of wet or not, they just like being in the portable. They like being kind of, in their own little area. And because they like it, then they make it palatable for kids, because the teacher really likes it.
At Canyon View, we had, I don't remember how many, there were 6 or 7 out there at one time. That's where 4th and 5th grade went. And that worked actually kind of well for a lot of reasons, and it made those kids feel like they were the big cheeses out there too.
Totally.
So, I mean, there are ways that you can make it happen, but if you just have like one classroom, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, it happens, but you're right, it's not optimal. No one likes, except for the teachers we talked about.
The
No one
ones who really
does
like it.
portables.
Custodians don't like it.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't think I'm a huge fan of scenario 3. Specifically, I don't like the thought of capping Ridgeview right out of the gate, because there's going to need to be some room for growth, I think. So that's just my personal opinion. So I would prefer 1 or 2 without digging into them definitively. I would prefer that, because I think we need more room for growth there. I'd hate for us to build a beautiful school and then 6 months later need a portable. And I know it happens. I'd hate for that to happen, but that would be my preference. And then I guess my other question is something like Vista. So we're potentially at 434. Does this impact any of the other programs, like the COG program? Is it Vista, I think, right now? Would it still stay there, or would this?
Yeah.
It would still. Okay.
Yeah, we have no intention of moving there.
Okay.
So just to kind of think about next steps. So the next step in the process is to take these scenarios out to parent meetings and get parent feedback, and then bring that feedback back to the board to talk about the study session. So what we're looking for tonight is any really not so much like which scenario you like better than the other one, but like, of these 3 scenarios, do you want us to make any adjustments or tweaks before we take them out to the community for feedback? Or is there another scenario of some sort that you want us to put together before we go out for community feedback?
I made my own scenario over here, so I'll show you after. I just can't, it's like impossible to explain. I can explain, I can try.
You gotta use a laser pointer on the thing.
I can try.
Okay. Okay, because what I heard so far was, looking at, just keeping an eye on that area where they're building apartments on Ely.
And then the Hanson Park North apartments that are going on.
Okay. Looking at Lincoln, and is there a scenario or a tweak to one of the scenarios where more can go to Lincoln? Is there room at Canyon View? Can we move anybody to Canyon View? Is there a way to take fewer students out of Sagecrest, or like keeping more of that neighborhood area that you identified in Sagecrest together?
Yes, so that's actually my scenario, that those 2 things you just said.
Okay.
So, because Diane said those apartments are going in there in Southgate area, right? And Southgate is, doesn't really have any room to grow. So, but there is that little north strip right along Southgate there. Spine South, yep, you're right in it. So if you move, yeah, if you move that over to Lincoln and move those other 2 polygons you already had moving out of Lincoln, right? That kind of replaces that, right? And then when those apartments go in, like Diane's saying, then now all of a sudden, the Southgate has some room to grow.
And Lincoln would have more.
Well, Lincoln would just sort of just swap. The 2 polygons that are going out, they still go out, and then they just get that little strip right here.
Yeah, because Lincoln's
I
under
think
by
you're looking
100.
at the natural break at 395 though, too, to keep
Yeah, you are.
east and west.
You are, but what are you gonna do when those apartments go in there, like Diane's saying? You know, then you're kind of,
Yeah, they're on the east side, so we're okay.
so, and then
Right.
that little corner of Sagecrest, you drop that up into Canyon View,
this
because Canyon
here?
View has a little room to grow. Yep, you drop that in Canyon View, Canyon View has room to grow. And then the other polygon on, where's the name of it? Panoramic Heights, that just stays Sagecrest, and then that kind of,
This here.
yeah, that sorts the neighborhood out right there, all 3 of those neighborhoods.
Just the strip you're wanting to move out of Southgate, the north end, that's where the apartments are, is in that strip.
Well, that's where the apartments are going?
Which ones?
The ones on Ely?
No, they're Ely and 13,
Well, either way, okay.
so they're down lower.
We're all gonna come
They
back.
are gonna be right.
They're right there, yep. That's exactly what happened.
Okay, so, yeah, so then my scenario works then, because then you have room for Southgate to grow. Lincoln just sort of swaps a little bit of population. The Sagecrest keeps their neighborhood the same, and then the Canyon View kind of adds the neighborhood, which is right next to the school. And then that way, they're closer demographically, they keep that neighborhood together, and then it allows for that growth. I don't know if that all made sense. I wrote it here. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll take, yeah.
Yeah, I would want to talk with April Heiser, our transportation director, to see what kind of a bus ride it might be
Okay,
That's all. we
from
need.
here
to there.
to
Yep.
Lincoln.
That's all we
And I
need.
think we need to look at how, like, the apartments being built, like, how many are there? What's the number,
Right.
right? I mean, if
Right.
it's.
You could also just, instead of those 2 polygons, you know, maybe just that bottom, that polygon stays, and then the top one goes, and then that little new section that I was just talking about also goes over to Edison or something like that, you know?
And I think, we can play with some things. I think what I'm hearing, kind of the underlying interest is in attempting a scenario that keeps the Sagecrest neighborhoods together more. Is that,
So 3 things, yes, well, keeping the neighborhoods together, that's it, but there's 3 different neighborhoods I think you're keeping together. That Sagecrest, that Canyon View one is not together, but that's right next to Canyon View, so you're kind of, you know,
This over here.
yeah, that kind of keeps it in Canyon View. And then it allows for that expansion in Southgate. Because geographically, that's really close, and geographically, that is the same neighborhood, so you're cutting, you know.
Is that Canyon View one, that's right at 27th, right?
Yeah.
That's why that,
No,
Right here.
no. it's not.
45th.
45th.
yeah, right at. What does that say?
I don't
So
know.
that's,
Like-
so that
It's
line at the
36.
bottom,
It's 30, 36,
I don't know, it's hard to see.
it's 45th.
Come on, Dean, tell me what it is.
yeah, we can play with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My feedback.
Appreciate it.
do we have a map of this with the street name, like, added into it a little bit more? Just out of curiosity.
So this software has all those street names I think you're looking for, but to do it, you have to zoom in
And get-
pretty closely to see them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for the sake of the presentation, I needed to catch Vista up here at the top, I needed to catch Sagecrest down here at the bottom.
No, I-
So, yeah, so a lot of those street names went away.
Yeah.
Does this program allow you to do an overlay? I've seen those before.
Yes, well, describe overlay first.
So I can put scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3.
I
Like
don't
you
know
used to
that
do the
answer.
overhead projector things, you know?
Yeah.
I've seen those for city planners. And so you can put one color one and then, you layer them on top.
I can find out, I'm still, the software is new to KSD, and I'm new to it.
Because
so
that way, you know, what we're talking about, move this, you
Yeah.
can just in real time see what it would have been and then
Yeah.
move it around on the next one.
Yeah.
You've got to have an overhead projector around here somewhere.
Well, you can,
Break out the
actually, those
transparency.
old,
Great.
old transparencies
Old
are
school.
perfect, you know, I mean, they work, but I know that there's fancy, expensive stuff you can do it on too,
Sure.
but we probably have sheets and sheets of
Yeah.
this green stuff.
It's possible that the software does it, I just don't know.
I would like to see each one over the original,
I would too.
because not all of them stacked together, just show me one over the original, the next one over the original. Because I'm really concerned about the bus routes and how much busing would be involved with some of these moves.
Like, any in particular?
Anytime that we go from the southern part of the population down the corner towards you,
Uh-huh.
and then headed west, anytime you're moving,
So from, by your right shoulder,
yeah, right, if you go towards your shoulder now,
keep moving toward you.
This way?
yeah,
Go.
travel
Keep going.
east, yeah,
There you go.
east, all the way east. If you start moving stuff from the east side,
Yeah.
westward or north, start worrying about the transportation. Anytime though, anytime you're making a move, if
Yeah.
you're telling me that transportation is involved, then I'm fine.
They are.
Okay.
Because one thing I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, I guess I did. I had to talk to them about putting these students at Ridgeview.
Mhm.
And my question was, so if like the student here, the Sagecrest student, if we're gonna put them at Ridgeview, what does that do to their bus ride to come, you know, to the east and then up, like I said? They said it would add like 5 minutes to their bus ride,
Okay.
which, I mean, I'm not a bus rider, so, but I wouldn't think that 5 minutes would be a huge gain.
Right, but I'm also thinking extracurricular activities. If we make this schools too far away from the population base, it cuts some kids out of extracurricular.
It would.
Perfect.
Thanks, Rob.
We've got
You're
another-
welcome.
It's a lot of work, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Good luck with the population. I'm
Yeah,
making
exactly.
everybody happy.
Because people love boundary changes.
Yeah, he's never.
That's a hot topic. Still,
I know.
from last time.
Okay, so done with reports and discussions. We have no unfinished business. New business is policy number 1120, Board of Directors Annual Organizational Meeting. Dr. Pierce.
Okay, so Bronson and I completed the review of the 1000 series policies and updated RCW references and all of that. And all of the policies, right, you approved on consent agenda tonight. There's one policy that when we reviewed it, it had some language that we had questions about and are presenting an update for you this evening. So this is more of a substantive change that's being recommended, which is why it didn't go with the others on consent agenda. So this policy pertains to the board's annual organizational meeting. The first thing is just the language says that if the president and vice president are both not present, then the board has to elect a president pro tempore to conduct the meeting. And we just think it'd be easier if that was the legislative rep, and then you wouldn't have to go through the business of electing a president pro tempore to do that. So that was the first thing. The second thing is there's language in this policy that says that if something were to happen to me and you would be without my services, then the board would appoint a board member to carry out the duties and responsibilities of the superintendent. That's pretty unusual language from my experience, that in typically what happens, if that were to happen, you know, our associate superintendent would step in and serve as superintendent on an interim basis.
How hard can it be, Tracy? What can I say?
But
Well, would you like to find out?
if this language exists, that would prohibit you from doing that, right? Because the language boxes you into saying a board member has to do it, and you have jobs and lives, and that's probably not something that you really want to do. So that is why we're recommending that language be struck
Good idea.
from this policy.
Perfect. Wonderful. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about this? Okay. If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve policy 1120, annual organization meeting as written.
Second.
Just for
First and second.
first and
First and
second.
second.
Oh, for first and second, yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, first and second. Any questions or comments? If not, I will call for the roll call vote, please.
Mr. Galbraith,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine.
Yep.
Ms. Sunvik,
Yes.
Mr. Mabry,
Yes.
and Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, that's it for new business. On to the next meeting agenda. We have the 22-23 preliminary budget, the legislative update, a tribal collaboration update, and mid-year academic update. Anything else we'd like to discuss in our next meeting? All right, if not, we have covered all of our stuff, and I will close the meeting. We'll be adjourned.
The record.
Thank you very much.
Well, actually, we had one.
Oh, no, we had one that was like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I remember that. That was super bad.